Greg Kruger, Chief Operating Officer of Dream Nutrition here.
With Stephanie Berner, Director of Education.
So we're coming at you guys just in a little bit different format, covering the blogs that Stephanie's writing. And the second blog that we had this week really is about dosing, because we hear people asking all the time, how much do I take? They see prescriptive levels coming out of potential clinical trials in 300 milligrams a day, but other products have 5 milligrams a day. So what do you think is the right dosing?
Well, so there is no RDA because there's been such a lack of research due to the lack
What's
of...
RDA mean?
Recommended daily allowance.
Okay.
So that is usually put out by the FDA, be it that cannabis itself as well as CBD oil and hemp products aren't necessarily regulated by them. They haven't established that yet, but I do think that'll be coming, especially because the 2014 Farm Bill opened up the growing and cultivation and thus the research of industrial hemp, which is where we get our CBD. So I think we'll see more information and more numbers coming forward that can help us treat specific conditions. But for the time being, what we want to tell people is, everyone is different. We're all unique individuals. We all absorb things differently. We all even take things differently. So it's really important to start with something that, like we said in the last blog, that you will take, and then start at a low level and work your way up, because you don't, then there's another side of that. Some people will just load up at first. I've even had customers come into the store I work in and tell me, my doctor said that I should take a whole lot to start with and then back off. Well, I think that's okay too, because we know that it is safe for the most part. Just make sure that you don't have any side effects from it if you take those high doses, but I still would advise starting low and working your way up.
What would you consider for people so that they know? I know how I kind of start off, but what would you say is a low dose, and what would you say is a high dose number in milligrams of CBD?
So I say anywhere from 1 to 10 milligrams to me is considered low enough to start.
Okay.
You may have someone, like if I have someone who's coming in and is telling me that they're suffering from a lot of chronic or acute conditions, then I may say to them, it's okay to, or it might be wise for you to start at a 5 milligram or a 10 milligram dose.
Okay.
So that you can, go ahead and feel the effects and have a little bit of the edge taken off. And then work your way up from there. And I also like to tell people to write down what they're taking and how it makes them feel. I think that's super wise.
So what do you think about this? Because I've told people this in the past, and I've said I've encouraged the high end because we know from my experience, we've seen people 5 milligrams to 40 milligrams, all around that range, but a lot of times landing in the 20-25 milligrams a day, right? Is what they find. So I've encouraged people to start at 20 or 25 on their very first dose, only because I think if you load it up in the beginning, it's going to give them an understanding, is this something that's going to work for me? Sure. Where maybe they take 5 milligrams and it's just not enough. So because it was just not enough, they just say, they stop and quit. I want to make sure that they take a high dose. Hey, this does work. Now they can back down and find the lowest dose to work for them.
I think that's fine too. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I think that because we don't have the guidelines and we don't have the experience yet in a broader spectrum, like a large amount of people that we've studied, which would be really nice, we just, we have to be really careful about how we go about it. But again, back to the safety and the generally recognized as safe status of, most of the constituents of CBD oil, I don't know why there's any reason not to do that. However, I would say to someone who wants to start lower, because some people are very trepidatious about it.
Sure.
Then I reassure them that they cannot overdose, and that if they start to feel tired, then that would be an indicator to go ahead and maybe stop, because that's typically you may not be realizing you're feeling the effects of it.
Sure.
And then maybe you get a little bit tired. That could be a sign of it working. So I would say, if you start at a low dose, even 30 minutes later, if you haven't felt anything, I would take that same dose again. And I would just slowly titrate by a certain milligram up until I reach a point that day where I did feel relief. So that would be another way you could do it, just the reverse of loading up. Either way,
walk it in instead of walking it back.
Yep.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Any questions, let us know.
Talk to you guys soon.
Be well.